Hello, everybody. This is Colin Murphy, and welcome to Torcana Podcast number 13. Okay, I've got a very interesting one today. I think a lot of you are going to like it. It's going to be what are the best ways investors can source great rental properties. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the secret sauce in this episode. I'm going to give you a brief description of each of the different ways we buy properties every week. They're not specific to the Tampa market I work in. They can be applied to any market really in the US. So I'm going to talk about all the different ways we do that, and I'm also going to let you know what kind of team you're going to need on the ground if you want to build a great rental portfolio yourself. Obviously, we buy properties every week from a wide range of sources. I've got different people working with me on the ground, and I'm going to just talk about how our business runs, but mostly I'm going to talk about the different ways investors can source great value rental properties. So your typical below market value, distressed properties, the ones where you can buy them with equity built in, the ones that are going to cash flow really well once you get rent ready. And I'm going to start at the kind of more obvious methods, and then I'm going to move down into the trickier methods, which would require a lot more research and a lot more time. Okay, so the first way people can buy great rental properties is obviously the MLS. That's the multiple listing service. Now, generally only realtors and brokers have access to everything on the MLS, but a lot of people have access to partial MLS services. You won't see the hidden realtors notes, but if you look on, Zillow or Trulia or Redfin, they're all copying and dragging information from the MLS. These are basically properties that are on sale to the general public that every realtor has full access to, and every member of the public has 80 or 90% of access to. So we use the MLS a lot for research purposes and sometimes to sell a property. So they're very useful for looking at, whether it's in a flood zone, when the last time it was sold was, verifying the year it was built, square footage, things like that. Don't really use it much anymore to buy properties, for the simple reason is that this is where the highest competition is, and it's the most difficult place to secure a deal at a great price. So I still place bids on MLS properties probably most weeks, but they would typically be short sales, REOs, foreclosures, or other kinds of run-down homes. So I'd never really put a bid on a house on the MLS that's more or less move-in ready, for the simple reason is that other people are going to be willing to pay more than I am. I can't compete with an owner-occupier because they're not looking to make a high cash flow return or a profit margin the same way I am. So anybody placing, and it's a typical rookie area that you go to the MLS and you place a ton of lowball offers on homes that are more or less good to go, you're just not going to get a look in. You're going to be offering $70,000 for a property, and other people are going to be offering 90 or 95. So MLS is really good for research. It's worth getting access to it if you can. Otherwise, you can just use Zillow and Trulia and Redfin and all these other kinds of other ones that are out there. But it's I wouldn't go placing bids on rent-ready properties or move-in ready properties. I would tend to focus on, because I have the people on the ground that are good at renovating properties and getting them rent-ready. So there's no way I'm going to compete on something that's pristine. I'm going to place any bids on distressed homes on the MLS, ones that are a little bit run down, ones that are complicated, short sales where you might have to wait for many, many months. So those are the kinds of MLS deals that we would buy, and we've got some nice ones there. The second way we source great properties is through wholesalers. Okay, so wholesalers are basically specialists who secure properties and then sell them on to investors and rehabbers at a modest profit. For example, a wholesaler might secure a property for $50,000 and then sell it on to me for $55,000. I'll spend $30,000 putting in new roofs, kitchens, floors, paint, etc., and then I'll sell it on to turnkey to an investor for 90, 95, whatever it might be. So the wholesaler makes his margin, I'll renovate it, and I'll sell it on to a turnkey investor who makes their margin as well. So everybody is a winner in the end. Now, a lot of wholesalers will just buy the property and keep it, and then we'll sell it to you. But more often than not, what they want to do is they just want to put it under contract. So they'll try and get an agreement, a purchase contract in place, and then they have maybe 10 days or 15 days to run around and try and find somebody who will take that contract off them, somebody who they can assign that contract to. So for example, somebody might come to me saying, Colin, I have this great 3-bed property, needs a lot of work. It's under contract with a closing date of the 15th of August. Do you want to take it off me? And I need a $5,000 margin. So we'll go and have a look at it. I'll verify the contract is good. And if it makes sense from my point of view, if the numbers make sense on my spreadsheets, I'll be happy to do it. It makes sense. They've done the work to find the deals, wherever they might have been, and they're just trying to pass them on to me because they prefer to keep assigning or selling lots of properties rather than spend time doing the work on them. So that's a viable model, and it's also a model that a lot of new people get into. It's a good way of getting into real estate if you don't have a lot of money, to be a wholesaler where you can just focus on finding deals and then passing them on to investors. That's a really good and well-trodden road to get started. So you can certainly do that, and I'm always happy to deal with wholesalers. How do you find them? You'll find them, these guys advertising on Zillow, on Craigslist. You'll see their We Buy Houses for Cash signposts, on telephone poles and backyards. You'll find them at your local RIA investor meetings and other networking events. So I'm probably on the mailing list of 40 or 50 local wholesalers in Tampa. They email me every day, and obviously lots of other people. Most of the properties they send me aren't of any interest, but every now and again they will be, and we'll go and buy one. So definitely worth considering wholesalers if you're starting out. The third method, which has actually been quite good to us, is direct marketing. So this is when we use both public records and professional database companies to compile a list of potential private sellers. So for example, I might get a list of 1,500 owners of single family homes in Pasco County that don't owe any money on their property, that don't live in the property, so they're not owner occupiers, that have owned it for at least 15 years. And I'll send all those people a simple postcard or sometimes a yellow letter saying, hi, my name's Colin Murphy. I buy houses for cash in your area. If you'd like me to purchase your property as is, with a quick closing, please give me a call on this number and I'd love to talk to you. So that actually works quite well. We often get responses from our postcard and our yellow letter campaigns, and I actually just put one under contract yesterday, 26th of July, where two sisters owned a property in an area I've bought many homes in, and they had major problems with tenants. They've had to evict a couple of tenants. The house has been empty for 5 months. It needs a huge amount of work, like we're talking new roof, new kitchen, new floors, new bathrooms, landscaping, paint, everything. It needs a lot of work, and they were both living out of the area. Neither of them had any interest in taking on this huge renovation job. They owed some back taxes and utility bills on the property, so they were absolutely delighted to get an offer from me to just buy the property for cash and take it off their hands. So it's under contract now. Hopefully we'll be closing in 2 weeks' time, and we'll renovate it during August and offer it in pristine rental condition after that. So that would be a typical direct marketing. So you need to stick at it. Some people starting out will just send out maybe 300 or 400 letters and will get a bit kind of downhearted when they don't get any calls, or if they do just get 1 or 2 calls from people that are looking too much money. So you have to be careful about how you're putting your lists together, that you're not sending letters to people whose homes you've no interest in buying. There's no point in sending mails to $300,000 areas if your budget's $80,000. There's no point in sending postcards to a bunch of condo owners if you're only interested in buying single family homes. So the technology is available nowadays to really, really drill down and specify what kinds of homes you want to target and what kinds of owners you want to target. So anybody really who's got some sort of distress, so it could be because they're in pre-foreclosure, could be because they owe some taxes or some code violations, or they've some motivation to sell could be non-financial reasons because they've inherited it from an uncle or their parents and they don't want to update it. Could be people getting divorced and don't want to pay the money to fix it up to get top value. Could be somebody dealing with delinquent tenants that just want somebody else to take the problem off their hands, or it could be just professional landlords that are reaching retirement age and don't want to deal with the hassle of managing 5 or 10 properties anymore, so they just want to get the cash out and put the cash in some sort of fixed interest investment instead. So there's loads of different types of ways of doing deals with direct marketing, and my only advice is that you need to stick at it, try and be organized, keep good records of who you're campaigning against. Be very careful if somebody rings you and asks to be taken off your list, take them off immediately and don't post them any letters again. And stick at it. I mean, some of the properties that we have bought are people that literally have had a letter sitting on their coffee table for 3 or 4 months, or it's only when you send them a third letter that they actually say, yeah, I must call this guy now. He sent me 3 letters. I'll give him a call and see what he can offer me. So it's useful. You need to stick at it. You need to be prepared to invest a bit of money. It's not that expensive. Good ways of finding the leads. I use listsource.com a lot. listsource.com. They're quite good. But there's other methods as well, and there's a lot of free information on public records. In order to send the actual letters, I mean, I'm not going to be actually printing 1,000 letters or putting addresses on 1,000 envelopes, and that's not a great use of time. So I'd use professional company to do that. I've used yellowletters.com in the past. They've proven to be quite efficient and investor focused. So yeah, try them out. And so yeah, just it's worth looking into for sure. So that's Yellow Letters. Next one would be private auctions, and by auctions I mean online auctions. I mean, there are still ways where you can go on the steps and actually put your hand up and bid on a property, but it's a little bit antiquated for me. I do everything online with auctions, so there's a lot of online platforms available now, pretty big companies too. The main ones would be hubzu.com, hubzu.com, auction.com, hudhomestore.com, hudsonandmarshall.com, homepath.com, homesearch.com. They're just a few of the ones that I've used to buy Tampa, Florida properties in the past, 6-8 months. They're all very different to each other. There's no rules. Some of them they've all got different terms, they've all got different fees as well. Hubzu, for example, will charge you 4.5% of your bid price plus a $300 technology fee. They all have different online platforms for submitting your contracts. Some of them are just a very simple put in your price and hit enter. Some of them make you do a bunch of paperwork. Some of them will give you inspection periods, in that if you win your bid, you still have maybe 7 days or 10 days to research it and do an inspection. Others will give you no inspection periods at all. They'll deduct several $1,000s as soon as you've won a bid, and there's no refund for that. So you just need to be aware of the fees. You need to be aware of the conditions of the sale, whether there's an inspection period or not. Obviously, most of these would be cash transactions. You're not going to get much interest in finance from these. Some of them you might, but most of these, they're looking for cash buyers. A lot of these properties wouldn't qualify for any conventional finance. The ones I bid on would tend to be a little bit more run down. Obviously, there's lots of pristine auction properties as well, but the ones I bid on would tend to be run down. And we've navigated those waters for a few years now, and have converted a lot of crappy auction properties into beautiful turnkey gems, and keep doing it. Then after private auctions, a big step up from that again is the public auction. So these are the auctions sold by the local county courts, local foreclosure. So many people, you hear about great bargains available in foreclosure auctions, and there's definitely a lot of truth to that, but there's certainly nothing easy about getting them. The biggest difference between public and private auctions is that there's no title insurance given against any tax or lien defects in a public auction. You're really buying the property as it is, and any problems that are attached to the property, if you win that auction, are going to be yours to deal with. So what could that include? That could include anything from a second mortgage, tax liens, utility liens, code violations, even alimony liens. So, for example, if I'm researching a property that's up for public auction in 2 days' time, I might find a lien for $10,000 attached to the property. It's not going to scare me off, but I'm just going to lower my bid price by $10,000 because I know I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to have to satisfy that when I buy it. So you can mitigate those risks by carefully researching public records, because certainly the Pinellas and Pasco counties have decent records. I would, it takes a while to figure them out. It takes a while to figure out. I mean, you really, the way you do it is that you find out who the owner of the property is, and then you put that owner's name in the public records, and then you find a ton of stuff attached to their name, some of which has to do with the property and others got nothing to do with the property at all. Just hope you don't find any John Smiths, because there might be 10 different John Smiths owning 15 different properties and you have to figure out which is which. So if you get a weird name of a person that has just owned one property, that's the ideal thing. But either way, you have to trawl through the different line items and then sort out which ones are important. They'll tend to give you the timelines as well, so you can see when they bought the property, when the mortgage was taken out, when sometimes they'll take out a mortgage and they'll refinance it, so you can see the first mortgage being satisfied, the second mortgage being taken out. So you have to go through those things and make sure you're not leaving yourself open to an unpaid mortgage or an unpaid tax bill, or if you are, take it into account. Also keep an eye out for any complex ownership structures. Obviously the ideal situation is just to have one owner or a couple owning it. If you have properties that have passed on to trusts, can get a bit tricky because sometimes the trust names can change. Sometimes you have trusts can be contested, or you might have properties owned by LLCs which have had loans for other non-related issues. So there's things like that to take care of. I mean, to be honest with you, the majority of properties that are up for public auction are just ordinary people that have fallen on hard times. They may have refinanced a little bit too much during the boom and couldn't pay it back, and it's a pretty straightforward process. I mean, you obviously, another big difference is, unlike private auctions where you can generally get into the property, they'll give you access to the property. Public auctions, you don't. You've no access to the property. You don't know. I mean, you can go up there and look in through the windows and get a general idea of whether the kitchen is dated or not, but you don't really know what your renovation budget is going to be the same way you would if you spent 40 minutes walking around each room and carefully looking for any evidence of damage. But you have to be pretty conservative in your renovation estimates for public properties, public auction properties, and some of them, public and private, some of them are habited, they're tenanted, and you might, if you buy those, you're going to have to deal with the tenants as well. So that's another layer of complexity that I wouldn't recommend for the faint of heart, but it's doable. So there's different complications there, but you can definitely do it. I mean, it's about practice, like everything else. The first time you start researching public auctions, it gets a little bit overwhelming. You're figuring you could spend an hour looking at a property online and you still have no idea whether you can bid on it or not. But after you've done 10 deals, researched, underwritten 10 deals, 20 deals, 50 deals, 100 deals, you get pretty quickly at going through it and underwriting it. And once you've, placed a couple of bids and got used to looking at the public records, you'll get quicker at it. But certainly don't rush into it. Don't just place a bid blindly until you understand what's going on in the public records. You do need to be able to figure those out. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into a lot more trouble than you bargained for. So public auctions are a great way to buy really good value properties, but it's for people that have a lot of time on their hands and a higher appetite for risk, for sure. So, they're the main ways: MLS, wholesalers, direct marketing, private auctions, public auctions. That's mostly how we go about buying our properties every week. So how could you get started if you wanted to do it? I mean, it really depends on how much time you have in your hands. That varies a lot. I do it, for 60 hours a week, and I have a team of colleagues on the ground, so I can pursue all of these avenues and a bunch of renovations simultaneously. If you're investing in real estate part-time, you should obviously take it one step at a time. In other words, I would, get your wholesaler list up and running before you start getting involved with yellow letter campaigns. I would master private auctions before you start moving on to public auctions. So take it one step at a time. Make sure you take your time to do your research. You need to dedicate a lot of time to it. There's no doubt about that. But also, and very importantly, I mean, nobody's been successful in real estate, as far as I'm aware, by working on their own. You always need people to help you. Could be one person, could be 10 person people, but you need people to help you. I mean, for me, there's several key people that I think any professional investor will need at their back, and they would include, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what each of these does, but they would include your property manager, your contractor to do the renovations, a handyman to do any minor work, a property inspector who could go there while you're under contract and take a really good long hard look, particularly at the roof, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrics. You need some sort of, if you're not going to do it, you need some sort of administrator that's going to help you with all of the paperwork, paying your deposits, reviewing contracts, drawing up contracts, signing closing statements, reviewing HUDs, filling out loan applications. There's a lot of paperwork involved. You need a title agent, an investor-friendly title agent who can do the lien searches for you quickly, get stuff done quickly and efficiently. Also bird dogs are very handy. Bird dog is just a term for somebody who will actually go and check out potential deals for you. So, if you're not on the ground 24/7, there's people that will go and look at properties for you. If you can find them, say, check out this home for me and give me some preliminary feedback to let me know whether it's worth putting an offer on it or not. So they're handy. As far as I'm concerned, you need all of those people to make a real estate business work. You need all of those people if you want to build up a portfolio of rental properties. But it's certainly not rocket science. And I do believe that anybody can make a proper living from real estate if you're willing to work hard at it and stick at it enough. But, don't worry, if you don't have time to build a team that sources and renovates and manages properties for you, then there is a very obvious alternative, and it's the one that most of our clients use, and that's simply to deal with a niche operator that specializes in sourcing turnkey properties for investors. So, unlike the vast majority of realtors who sell direct to homeowners or to second homeowners, we specialize, and we've always specialized in buying, renovating and selling to out-of-state and overseas investors, and we've got a very wide range of systems in place to cater for everything that you would need to get that property added to your portfolio and make sure it's earning you a lot of money. So, there is definitely a business model for people that are working full-time. We have a lot of busy business owners, doctors, busy parents, etc., that have cash, that have deposits, that use our services for sourcing turnkey rental investments. If you want to learn more about that, just look at our website, torcana.com, torcana.com, or send me an email if you'd like to learn more, schedule a phone call, something like that. But either way, if you have the time, you can definitely make real estate work for you. You can build a great rental portfolio over time, either by yourself with the help of some people on the ground that you take the time to meet and build a relationship with, or by just using a turnkey operator like ourselves. But either way, understanding the methods whereby people source property and fix property is going to be really useful either way. So that's it, folks. That's pretty much the end of podcast 13. I really hope you like it. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to talk to you again soon. All right, take care. This recording contains general information relating to the real estate market, and it is for educational purposes only. Buyers should always seek appropriate legal, tax, and financial advice from suitably qualified professionals before entering into any real estate transaction. Actual returns from rental properties will always vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. While we have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of any guests on our show, we do not warrant their accuracy. Opinions of the host are not necessarily shared by other employees and partners of Torcana and its subsidiaries.